Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga Texas construction update video. While I was at the Cybertruck delivery event, I was given the opportunity to talk to many of the Tesla employees that are in charge of several of the major systems around Giga Texas. And there's some updates that I would like to pass along about three areas specifically that have been high interest to many of my viewers. And those are the west main entrance, the stone glass installation, the solar panel installation on the roof, and also the Megapack installation just to the north of the factory. The first item we'll be talking about is the west main entrance, specifically the stone glass installation, because there's been a lot of questions about this in my previous videos. Here's an image I took from the ground. The big question was whether or not the adhesive was leaching up out of the cracks and causing all of this discoloration that we see. I talked to some of the people that maintain this, and they're saying that it's not the adhesive at all. What it is all of the dust in the area combining with a lot of the moisture, as you see, and then it runs down, and that's what looks like it's leaching, but it's actually just dust and a lot of moisture. Next, I want to give some updates on the solar panel installation on the roof of Giga Texas. This has been a high interest item over the last couple of years as the solar panels have been installed, and I know a lot of people are looking for some updated information. Now I'm going to bring the drone up here, take a look at the roof. I'll give you some still images. This red outline is the phase one of the solar power panel installation. There's about 30,000 of them now, and they spell out Tesla. And part of it is operational, and it is used to help reduce the power need of the factory, and it only goes directly to the factory. Phase two in the yellow will continue. That'll be over 70,000 panels. They are not going to be moving or recentering the Tesla emblem, and they will not be removing or moving any of the solar panels. But they will be adding additional solar panels onto the building extension once that is completed. There remains some additional roof modifications that are underway, and once those are completed, phase two installation of the next batch of solar panels can resume. So it's great to have all of this new updated information and to be able to verify with the people that are actually responsible for the installation of the solar panels here at Giga Texas. The final area of discussion is another one that has had a lot of interest by my viewers, and that has to do with the Megapack site. So let's talk about a few updates and new information for that system as well. It's very close to being commissioned. Tesla is working with ERCOT, which is the Energy Reliability Council of Texas that manages the entire electrical grid for the area, or actually for the state. The purpose of these megapacks are to support Giga Texas, number one, and to help stabilize the grid, number two. And all of this work and the commissioning should be very soon, from what I heard during the actual Cybertruck delivery event. And again, it was really good to get some of those details and kind of understand exactly what is going on with the Megapack installation. Well, there you have it. Three main areas of high interest here at Giga Texas with some new information and updates. I hope that you enjoyed what I was able to present, and it helps put into context a bit more of what we see around the site and what this means for the future of Giga Texas. So let's get into the drone. Let's fly around and see what Giga Texas looks like today. If you would like to support my efforts, please consider using these links, which will be in the video description. If you are interested in Tesla products, you can help yourself and support me by using my referral code. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons on my YouTube video, as this helps as well. Thank you. My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga Texas. Good morning from the east side of Giga Texas. A good look at the activity on this part of the site. The recycling yard is in the middle of the screen. We see more of the workshops Some of the tents, some of the old concrete that was ripped up from the south end, and of course the main building in the background. You'll note that almost all of it is now stained white. It's just that northeast corner that's left, and crews were working on that this morning. So the stain work for the main building is almost completed. Now, while we're on this side of the entire site, I wanted to show you a clearing that continues to grow and is being prepared possibly for more materials or more storage or maybe parking. But this entire section that we're flying over is just currently being used for contractor trailers, equipment storage, materials. Eventually, all of this is going to be moved out. It's temporary. So we could see something else constructed in this very large section of the site someday. And that's something I'm going to be continuing to watch for over the coming months and into 2024. Here's another look at the recycling section on this side of the site. This is where they break down a lot of the wooden crates and prepare it for recycling. We also see Model Y bodies, some recycled Tesla cabinets and equipment, and a few of the Cybertruck bodies on the left as well. And all of this will be eventually just recycled and moved off to the site. There's also some other equipment too near that school bus that looks like it's being prepped for recycling. So interesting to see what is on this side of the site. Now, as we proceed over to the battery cathode plant, most of the activity is currently in this sedimentation basin or this water detention pond on the right. We also see some covered Cybertruck bodies by the equipment room for the crash test facility on the left, and a little bit of a view inside this portion of the battery cathode plant in that open section. They're preparing concrete on that outfall channel on the left, putting more of that grass seed mixture on the berm section of this pond. And in the bottom, we talked about this in my previous video. This is a filtration system, very similar to the sedimentation basin by the testing and calibration lot on the east side. They're putting the dirt over the pipes that go along and across that middle section right now. And it looks like they are also doing more work on the exit outfall channel on the right, and on the north an entrance outfall channel. The wade pit has water in it. Most of the dirt that was piled next to it has been removed, but I don't think that wade pit's being used right now. We do see some paved work going on next to the cell test and recycling lab that just went underneath the drone. And I'm going to take this opportunity to fly further to the northeast and show you some of the activity that is going on this far side of the site today. Here we see earthwork, some of those center dump trucks moving the dirt to other sections of the site, possibly that new clearing that we saw earlier in the video. As a reminder, through this area, the trees, and then over to that large clearing, that field on the left, will eventually be a new road that has had the permits filed and the neighbors have been notified. The lot here you see is the equipment rental and maintenance lot, plus more of the concrete sections from that far south end of the building where they're doing the extension work. Through this field, which I call Lone Tree, you can see several tracks that are going up to the north, and they are depositing a lot of dirt up next to a tree line on the end of this particular flat location. And you can see that path in the middle here where a lot of trucks have been driving back and forth. But this is a good view of how this rental equipment lot looks today. And as we pass over these ponds and hills that are part of that old sand and gravel mine that used to be here, I wanted to show you this large field of equipment, platforms, and other items that are all for production. And part of the reason why I want to show you this is so you can get a good sense of how much is up here. But also, we talk about the next generation vehicle. We do now know that it's going to be built here at Giga Texas. Elon confirmed that with Sandy Moreau's video and interview. And we've actually known this for quite some time, and we've talked about it in this video. or my video series. But a lot of this equipment here is waiting to continue to be moved into the factory to build out more of those production lines for that next gen vehicle. And I'm just really glad I'm able to show you just how much more equipment is waiting to be moved into Giga Texas. And that follows on some of the other discussions that we've had about how they're continuing to build out a amount of production that is way in more than what you need for just Cybertrucks or Model Y. So with that confirmation, we have a pretty good idea what's going on. The equipment here, the stainless steel tanks on the left and those new kind of tanks on the right, still waiting for installation in the battery cathode plant. And as I fly over these ponds and come to this north end of the cathode plant, we can see the work on the lift station is continuing. A lot of workers around those concrete vaults, and you can see that circular vault with the open top. And this is for a lot of the plumbing pipes and other items needed to make that lift station for the treated water, the sewage water for this side of the site. As we fly over the prepared grade underneath the drone with all of the geotextile membranes and the gravel, I'll keep us low. You can see more of the trench work on the left underway, some of the office trailers on the right. And then here we see this white trailer. This is used to reclaim water that has had some contamination. It's usually used to clean out a lot of the water pipes and systems. So it looks like that work is going on today. The chiller plant looks like it's operational with at least one of the Evapco fan units working while the crews are continuing to work on the pipes, the heat exchangers, and the manifolds on the roof section here. Also, the conduit going underneath the road, connecting the two facilities, looks like it's getting close to the point where they'll be able to put the concrete covers on. And it looks like there's more pipe work on the right next to the die shop between those two large white tanks. The concrete work in the middle here that we saw being prepared on my previous video was completed as well. So as I bring the drone up, give you a good view of the employee overflow lot. Also another section that is getting grade work here, kind of in the middle of the screen. And I'll continue to turn the drone back towards the die shop and give you a good view of the work that's going on the south end. Still waiting for the windows on that corner to be installed. So as we proceed along the Tesla Road extension onto this east side and that four-way intersection on the left, it's a good view of some of the trailers and some of the vehicles, some of which are very heavily covered with dust here for Tesla's temporary offices that are used for security and also new employee orientation. The smaller temporary electrical switch yard is de-energized. We're still waiting to find out if that's going to be removed or not. I was not able to ask that particular question during the Cybertruck delivery event, but we do see some more work on the vaults on the bottom left with more wiring for some of the crews, so that it looks like they're finishing up some additional wiring on that south end of the new permanent electrical switch yard. The Megapack site is very close to being commissioned, as we discussed in the video intro. Some more work on this north end where the gravel mix has not been applied. And they also look like there's some workers on the Megapacks themselves today, maybe doing some final checks or preparing for the work to be certified, and then maybe we'll start seeing this being commissioned. The trailers here and the equipment lot looks very empty, and we would expect that because of the progress that they're making on the Megapack site and getting it close to being able to be commissioned. So let's fly over Tesla Road and let's look at some developments at the 4680 cell production portion of the factory. What I noticed when I arrived this morning is that there's several sets of bridge cranes set aside here to be moved into the new section of the 4680 production that's been recently completed. These look like they're 15-ton variety, and they should have 2 of those beams per one bridge crane. And those will be attached to the bridge crane's rails, which have been installed underneath the taller of the 2 platforms here in this large open section. And despite the light being a little bit of a challenge here, I'll try to zoom in and give you a view, a little bit about what it looks like through this opening, and get a sense for the work that's been done. And also, the concrete was poured on the second and third floor mezzanines that have been added recently with the construction work in that area. So as we continue to fly along the north side of the building, we see more of those trailers, blue, white, black, that are used for that water recycling after doing some of the flushing of the system. And then another thing that's nice to see is the Naka crews. The company that is doing the white stain are preparing the northeast corner now. We see a lot of the materials and the castings moved away from the bottom of the wall, and they are pressure washing the concrete to make sure that they get good adhesion of the white stain. And this angled corner and just a small section of the east side of the casting section remain to be completed to finish up the at least the existing form of the main factory. The ventilation system with those ducted fans and the openings, the rectangular openings into the roof, looks like it's making a lot of progress on this particular section, and this gives you a good idea of how many more of these that they need to install along this section of the roof. And I'll bring the drone back down here, get a chance to see more of that pressure washing of the concrete. And again, all of the equipment that I told you about has been moved away from the wall so that they can complete the stain work. And as I round the corner, you can get a good sense of just how little of the wall panels remain to have that white stain done. And then the factory itself will be all one contiguous color, at least for a short time, until we start seeing the extension materializing on the south. As I bring the drone up over the power lines, I'll reposition to give you a good view here on the east side of the casting machine structure. What we see is a lot less of the materials needed for the furnace installation, so that gives us that good clue that that is almost completed now. We also see a number of castings on the side, and I'll give you a closer view. And of course, the work that's going on the roof with that ventilation system is visible as well. As I come back in, I'll get the drone positioned. I'll give you a good zoom in. We can take a look at the castings. It looks like there are several hundred of them here on the outside, but it also looks to me like they still are only rear castings. And here's a good zoom in. It's hard to tell. I think the rack-mounted castings that you see are most likely for Model Ys. Maybe there's a few of the Cybertrucks in there as well. But what I'm not seeing at this moment in time is very many front castings for the Cybertruck. Now, they could be just on the inside and being moved over to where they're being installed, or maybe that could indicate that we're still seeing some production of the casting issues that will affect the production of the Cybertruck for the next few weeks, maybe into the early part of the first quarter. Good look at these receiving docks and the work on the concrete aprons that continue. And I will zoom back out and we'll reposition over to the outbound lot, and I'll show you some of the activity here today. Model Y production seems to be pretty robust right now, and possibly ramping a little bit more, keeping with that relatively flat ramp. But for the Cybertrucks, I only see 4 of them here in the outbound lot today. With the windshield wiper marks, it looks like maybe these are not brand new. It looks like another one is being prepared to be driven off. It'll eventually go over to the Superchargers, where it'll join 2 other Cybertrucks, and we'll roughly follow that along here for the next few minutes in the video. But otherwise, I don't see any Cybertrucks here on the outbound lot. It doesn't mean that there aren't being produced and that they're being moved off at times where I'm not here with the drone. That could be, but we're not seeing the huge numbers of Cybertrucks that would give us some clue on what the production rate is right now. But I would say that the Model Ys are doing pretty well, and most likely Tesla is concentrated on that because Model Ys are generating a lot more income than the Cybertrucks at this moment in time. That's my guess. I'm not saying that that is in fact true or not. But you'll see that Cybertruck that we saw backing out is driving here on the testing lot. You see a lot of the Model Ys all throughout this area. as well. After they are checked out, they're moved over to the outbound lot. But this Cybertruck is going to back in and join 2 other Cybertrucks here at the Superchargers. And let's watch for a few minutes of the maneuvering of the Cybertrucks and what the supercharging effort looks like. As I pull away to reveal more of the testing and calibration lot, we'll also see more of those probably release candidate versions of the Cybertrucks arranged around the helicopter pad, but really not a lot of the Cybertrucks that I saw around today other than the ones here at the Superchargers and in the outbound lot. The multi-level parking garage construction site and the road construction continues. On this section with these trailers, we see more of the concrete sections and also the double T panels that are used for the floors arranged ready for installation. And in a short bit of the video, we're going to actually see one of them be lifted up and prepared for installation on the growing multi-level parking garage. The footing work continues working to the east. It's kind of in that middle section right now, and you can see a lot of that activity, and we'll come back for a closer view. Also, this section of the earthwork on top of those 5 underground steel corrugated pipe manifold system, that looks like it's continuing as well. And they also have a nice berm put near that pond. Now I'm going to pull back over the trees. What I'm trying to see is where the road may come through eventually, and you can see a little bit on the left bottom of the screen, and it will connect over to this section at some point, and then also on the southeast corner of the main factory. But here's a good view of the work and its current status on this side. We see more of the steel corrugated pipe ready for installation, and here's a good close-in view of the footing work and other concrete work in the site where we'll see that multi-level garage expand to and then eventually fill out this entire section. So as we fly over, we also see this very large formed in section with rebar, and we've seen those bands repeat throughout this entire construction site on the ground. We also see more of the concrete installation preparing for the structure to eventually cover over this section. You see the trailers that have the crane being prepared for lifting of one of those double T panels. And fortunately, the timing today was just right. We're going to see that panel being lifted up, and then I'll follow it around with a drone and we'll watch where it's being installed. And it looks like it's going to be installed on the 5th level, right behind where the yellow crane is. So let's watch this lift and let's follow it along and see how it is placed for installation. Now, these double T panels have been used in other parts of Giga Texas, most notably the roof sections of the casting and the stamping machine section of Giga Texas. And that's because those are the 2 other parts of the factory that are predominantly made with concrete columns and beams, very similar to what we see here at this multi-level parking garage. But there's a good view close in of how that panel is positioned. It'll be lowered down onto those 2 beams, and then it will form more of the floor, very similar to what we see on the other levels right now. And as I maneuver the drone around, you get a good sense that this structure has continued to grow more towards the east. It's growing to the north, and also we get a good view of that stairwell that's being in place on that southwest corner of that structure. Here's a good view of the east side of the stamping machine section. All of that material still here. Some of it is production line equipment that's waiting to be moved in for assembly. And then, of course, some of it, the gray material here, is the steel that's being arranged around this section that will be forming the new extension of the building. Here's a good look at that perimeter beam that has been put in with concrete in that kind of a corner next to the angled corner of the building. And then here is a good view of the steel structure with those 3 large glass panels installed on top of the perimeter grade beam on that angled section. And I'll bring the drone in closer. I'll give us a good view from the top down of how this structure looks. And then I'm going to spiral around just so you get a good sense of how this structure is continuing to grow. Also, we see on the roof and the floor beams that some of the roof and the floor decking materials is being put on the top, and that will help prepare for the workers to install that. And then once those are installed, we'll see more concrete poured that'll form the roof and the floors. And the final thing that they'll do most likely is the ground level slab after the structure is mostly completed. Now, we also see work on the perimeter grade beam with those yellow forms. Also, some of those concrete column bases have been formed as well. And we see a new section of steel starting to be erected with a new column. And I'll give you a closer view shortly. It's a good view of those glass panels and how this angled corner looks. And as I mentioned, there's a new beam or column being placed, and it's being ready to be put onto this column base. We also see on the right there's a couple of double column bases. So this is going to be one of the sections of the building that will have 2 columns very close together, but it will still be one of the grid coordinates for the factory. And as you probably saw on my production line video where I showed a detailed discussion about the grid line coordinates, the building extension is extending the building now from grid coordinate 85 through 93. And so it's approximately 400 feet, maybe a little bit less, and approximately 120 meters, maybe a little bit less of the length of the building extension. Here's a good lower view of some of the column bases. You can see like M92, M91, those are the grid coordinates that they have painted onto each of the columns. We see some more of the footings with rebar at the bottom of the screen. And then here the crews are preparing the last major section of a replacement wall panel. That yellow material, it'll have a coating, and then they will have that stained white so that it looks like the rest of the walls. A good view of many more of the rebar cages for the footings, more of the column bases with some of the forms. The bases have had the concrete poured. And then here we see some of the footings in an earlier stage of construction being prepared, and some new excavation work on the footings as well. As I bring the drone back here, what I want to show you is the perimeter grade beam is continuing to work from the east to the west. Also, the footings have now reached the angled corner of the building, and we're going to see that kind of wrap around and mimic that angled corner on this side as well. And here's a good overall view looking back to the east of the entire construction site and how it continues to transform. I did notice when I arrived a lot of material still being moved inside through these 2 platforms. And just because production is going on inside this part of the factory doesn't mean that they're continuing to do construction and build out of the factory and the production lines as well. So all of that's going on at the same time. So let's cross over the highway and then we'll resume the narration here, taking a look at the new end-of-line facility, some of the work on the south end of that facility for superchargers and a covered canopy. And we'll come back for much closer views, but while we're on this side, I wanted to show you the developments that are going on here over the west warehouse on wheels and this section between the warehouse on wheels and the road, and also this large material staging yard. Now there's a lot of those concrete pipe segments, so we're going to see a lot more trenching, and that'll be installed to help manage the water runoff. I want to take this opportunity here to zoom in and show you this southwest corner. The grade work is continuing, and they're starting to spread some of the gravel on top. So that may indicate we're going to see an expansion of parking, at least in the short term. And it looks like the pond is still there. There's just like an open section in the middle. They haven't done any of the grade work, but they are continuing to work on that far southwest side. So something I'll continue to monitor. The material staging yard here, in my previous video I showed you there's a number of superchargers that are being stockpiled here waiting for installation. We see this crane and some other materials here with blue wrapping. It looks like the crane's probably getting ready to start lifting some of that, maybe to put it on trailers to move over to the factory. Some more of the superchargers just passed underneath the bottom of the screen. And then the first large section of paving of the new outbound lot has been completed. And you can see some of the base mounts for the lighting in the middle. In addition to that, we see more trench work here on the farther north to prepare for more of the lighting. And this will, once it's done, round out this section, and then they'll be able to put pavement, the asphalt pavement on this side as well. So this is a good view of the work that is underway to prepare the trenches for those lighting systems. More of the pipes here, the white and the blue, for various kinds of water stockpiled for installation. We see a lot of that going on in trenching here on the west side of the end-of-line facility. Also on the left-hand side of the screen, we see the trench work, the concrete vaults, all being placed, and this is for the electrical conduit that goes under the highway. And I'll give you a closer view of that shortly in the video, but I wanted to give you a look at the trench work and the blue pipe installation here on the west side of the end-of-line facility. Also some of the duct work and those concrete pads for the HVAC systems that will heat and cool the end-of-line facility. More of the trench work with the blue pipe is obvious here. And then on this south end, you can see those excavations with those pipe segments sticking out. I'm pretty sure now what we're seeing is the mounts for a large covered supercharger system, and I believe that's what we're going to see here. And there's upwards of about 96 superchargers that will be installed. I'm also expecting somewhere near this area some of the mega chargers for the Tesla Semi to be installed, as I have been given some indication that we'll start seeing sometime in the near future semis being used to do the transports of the vehicles, probably after this facility is completed. More of the concrete vault work is visible on the bottom left, and also throughout this entire section. Many of the trenches that we saw just in my previous video 48 hours ago on this side of the structure have already been filled in. So they're making a really fast progress in preparing this east side of the end-of-line facility, probably for paving. So we'll have roads, maybe parking, and maybe some other things that are put into place to help support the end-of-line facility. As I fly around here on the north end, one of the things that you can see next to this white and red excavator is this large pit with the two workers in it. These are going to be more of the concrete vaults, similar to what we see right next to the workers. And this is where that horizontal drilled pipe with the conduit that goes under the highway to the main factory will exit. And this is where the main connections will be made. And some of it will go down the east side and some on the north side. And as I mentioned, here's a good closer view of the trench work, the red concrete covered conduit stacks, and a lot of the vaults, the concrete vaults that will be where the connections are made. So as I reposition the drone up higher and turn around to give you a good view of the factory, the end of line in the distance, the die shop and the cathode plant, gives you a good view of many of the areas and the amount of the site that we were able to fly over today, plus a good view here from the west looking east over Giga Texas, and just a really good view of how all of the site looks today. So as always, thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate your support, and I hope that you found what we discussed and what we were able to see today helpful and informative. As always, thank you very much, and I hope you have a great rest of the week. Take care.